All right, everyone, what have we learned about Arsenal in their start to the season? Of course, some tricky games in there. We know we've been to Villa Park, Tottenham, Man City, even away at Atalanta. We've had to play PSG. We've had two newly promoted sides too. So Arsenal have had to flip from sort of different tactical setups. We've even had a more favourable cup game against Bolton. And it's put a lot of things to the test. Are the new signings ready? How good is the squad depth? Kai Havertz, can he pick up on last season's form? And quite a lot of other things that we're going to go through in this video. 5 things we've learned about Arsenal since the start of the season. Now that we're in an international break, it's a good chance to take stock of it. Now, I'm going to start with point 1, and it's the more, I don't know, it's the tactical look at Arsenal a little bit. And the big one for me is that dynamics matter. What do we mean by that? Well, what we mean is the understanding of players on the pitch and understanding roles and connections between players, you know what they're doing, is massive, and one thing can have a massive effect on the other. Riccardo Calafiori is the player that makes me think about this, because Calafiori has come in at left back. At times, Timbers play at left back, but in the last few games, last 3, 4, 5 since the Etihad, it's been Calafiori who's held that spot, and he's been absolutely terrific. And coinciding with his, emergence in the team as a new signing has been an upturn in form for Gabriel Martinelli, who started to look more dangerous with goals against Leicester, goals against Southampton. They'll get where the Etihad, he worked really hard, but in that first half looked dangerous as well with Calafiori behind him, and things have just seemed to tick a lot more for him, again because the dynamics have mattered more. Let's discuss this on the tactical plan in just a sec, but before I do, I want to show you this from Cannon Stats that we touched on Tactical Insight if you watched the reaction to the Southampton 3-1 win. And if you didn't see it, it basically broke down each half in halves. So you've got a quarter of each match. And the thing I want to focus on is, again, Riccardo Calafiori's position. Because in the first quarter of the match, you can see him tucking in a little bit closer to Gabriel in build-up. In the second quarter of the match, from 22 minutes onwards, you see him getting into that kind of inverted left-back role that we've seen Zinchenko play, getting into slightly more creative areas. In the second half, you see Calafiori again a little bit deeper as Mikel Merino has now come into the game, and he's probably facilitating the fact that Merino's going to be there and build up a little bit more. And then you go to the final quarter of the match, albeit he did come off towards the end, but you see him now hugging the touchline a little bit more with Merino deeper and Gabriel Martinelli tucked in slightly. Why does this matter? Because now we will illustrate it on the tactical pad. If we just look at Arsenal here, let's make everyone a little bit bigger. You've got the players here, and I've just gone for a general 11 that's been going out. I think this is the 11 that went out against PSG. Now, the 4-2-4 is how we've been out of possession. It's at times we've been in possession, but we have seen as well Trossard dropping into the 10, coming to combine over here so that Havertz can lead the line the way he's been doing so brilliantly. Of course, we didn't see that against Southampton because Jesus was playing, so Havertz was dropping wide a bit. But again, I want to focus more on Calafiori and why the dynamics matter, because we know that Arsenal can get into this kind of shape. Let's sort of show it like this, with sort of Trossard floating in that pocket, Havertz stretching the line, and Calafiori has at times been going really high up the pitch. He's at times been tucking in just to let Declan Rice come in, and then Trossard has moved a long one, and we've just been very, very fluid in game, trying lots of different shapes and systems. But the big thing about Calafiori here is the understanding that at times he's tucking in to give us a little bit more in build-up and help Thomas Partey. At times he's going beyond Declan Rice, because sometimes we've even had, we've had so many different shapes with the two splitting. Rice has dropped deeper, Saka's moved in field, Calafiori's dropped in, Trossard's gone wide, Saka's tucked in, Timbers come on the outside. We've had so many different shapes, so much fluidity. And the reason is because Calafiori's come in and understood the position, but it's really helped unlock Gabriel Martinelli, who I think's looked a lot more dangerous by having that kind of player and support behind him. And with Calafiori coming in, giving us that, we've now got Mikel Merino who's going to play a part in that too. I thought Merino in a small cameo against Southampton started to just get on the ball a little bit, win his duels as you'd expect from him. The data suggested he would. But there was one ball he played over the top to Martinelli that I just thought, if you can get Martinelli from one end of the pitch to the other really quickly with the ball over the top, that's the kind of thing that I think he's lacked recently when, we've had to play with a more out-and-out defensive left-back in Kivior or Tomiyasu, or when, Declan Rice is still kind of getting used to that left 8 role and maybe is more suited to the 6 with Merino playing to his left in the 8. To get the most out of Martinelli. I think dynamics matter, and the fact that Martinelli's upturn in attacking form for sure is coincided with Calafiori coming to the team, and now we're going to see a little bit more Merino. It just, I think, cements the point that you can't just blame a player's form on the player. They're always trying, they want to do their best, but there might be other elements of the side that aren't necessarily helping them, and I think that's interesting. And the fluidity of Calafiori with Martinelli doing well is probably evidence of that. Now, the second point I want to talk about, is that Arsenal's squad, I actually think is really strong. I think we learnt that against Southampton. Let me show you this here. So what I've got here, we should make it all a touch smaller on the tactical pad. What we've got here is Arsenal's 11 started against Southampton on the left. Now you look at that, that's not a bad 11 for me. Now some people said that they saw it as a 4-4-2. Well, let's make it a 4-4-2. But either way, okay, Jesus is struggling, isn't in his best form. Okay, we're missing some players. But for me, that is not a bad 11 that went out against Southampton at all. You've still got probably 3 of your best back 4. You've got your best goalkeeper. Partey's good enough to do a job at right back. Jorginho's good enough to come in and do a job in the 6. And then, of course, maybe Jesus is where you're feeling you'd rather have Ødegaard there and go to your 4-3-3. But that is not a bad 11 whatsoever. Then I've got in the first box here, I've got all the subs. From Neto to Tomiyasu, Kivior, Marino, Waneri, Martinelli, Trossard, and Butler, Oyadeji. Let me just show you. We'll do it in red. No, actually, let's do it in yellow. Nope, blue. I keep changing my mind. There we go. What's going to stand out the most? Blue. These are the subs that came on against Southampton. Tomiyasu, Kivior, Marino, Martinelli, Trossard. I mean, that is not bad. The 11 that went out, and the 5 subs we were able to bring on. That is pretty strong, people. Then you've got Lewis Skelly and Waneri, who have looked good every time we've had to play them, and they haven't even got minutes in the Premier League recently. Well, Waneri did against Leicester, but only 10 minutes. Didn't come on against Southampton. That was it, the last game. Lewis Skelly got a couple minutes against PSG, but I don't think touched the ball. I mean, it's just interesting that those 2 players didn't get mentioned. We're going to talk about them a little bit later as well. But the squad depth is there when you look at the subs. And then I've got here in this box of 6 players that didn't get used at all on the matchday squad. Tommy Setford, Ben White, Alexander Zinchenko, Kieran Tierney, Jurriën Timber and Martin Ødegaard. I know people have questions as to whether the squad has enough depth to win the league, whether we've got the firepower and the quality to go toe-to-toe with Man City and actually win the whole thing. But I don't think you can question whether there are options there that Arteta likes and trusts and whether there's plenty of players there. I think even though, yes, a lot of the options there are youngsters or players that, I don't know, are new, like Marino or whatever, and players that we don't really know what we're going to get from them in Calafiori, Sterling, Marino, Waneri, Lewis Skelly. There are numbers there, and I think the squad has proven to be in much better shape than we perhaps expected. Now, thirdly, and following on from that, original point we just made about the squad depth, I think one thing we have learned, these youngsters aren't going to be rushed into the team. The likes of Lewis Skelly, the likes of Ethan Waneri, who I think we want to see them playing a lot of football, they're not going to be rushed into this team. They're not going to be thrown in just because maybe there's an injury to Ødegaard, so we'd all be expecting someone like Waneri to be playing. I think that's really interesting. I think we all thought that basically the next natural heir to Ødegaard would be coming in, but instead we've seen Trossard playing some minutes there, we've seen Havertz drop into midfield a little bit, and we've seen a few different options there. Waneri has obviously been trusted to come on against Tottenham away. We've seen Lewis Skelly be trusted, come on against Man City away, and then we've seen Waneri come on when we needed a goal against Leicester. Now that is proper trust. It's 2-2. We need a goal, and Waneri was trusted to come on and make a difference, and he did. He was brilliant. But they're not going to play just for the sake of it, and Arteta is still going to manage their minutes very carefully, even though they're 17 years old. But what we have learned as well is that they are ready. Let me show you what I mean on the tactical pad. Let's have a look at this. This is Waneri up against Bolton. Just a little moment where I noticed Waneri just doing the kind of things that Ødegaard would be doing. Here's Kivior in possession against Bolton. Waneri in the pocket that you'd expect someone like Martin Ødegaard to be picking up. Just a nice little pocket where he can play. But he senses very intelligently that the pitch, the play's moving on behind him, that Saka's making runs, that Nichols going to attack some space. And rather than sort of go, lunging forward in the hope of sort of getting onto the ball and getting us playing, of course, 0-0 at the time. He's patient, he recognises how to knit play together, and he recreates the sort of triangle that we've seen Ben White, Bukayo Saka and Martin Ødegaard recreate so many times. What he does here, ball goes out to Nichols, Nichols gives it straight to Waneri, Saka's made the run, a little 1-2, and he's off. And it's just a little thing I wanted to illustrate. It leads to Nichols putting the ball into the box and then Declan Rice puts it into the back of the net. But I just wanted to illustrate that Waneri is doing little things. We saw against Bolton in particular where he's showing a maturity, showing an understanding of the role. And if Martin Ødegaard had just done what Waneri did in that moment of the game, we'd be saying, yeah, that's vintage Ødegaard, just getting on the ball, knitting play together and keeping that right-hand side ticking, whether Saka's wide, whether Ben White overlaps. And what you've seen from Waneri is him keeping that going as well. So, while I do ultimately look at Arteta's use of the youngsters and think, okay, he's not going to rush them, I do think they are looking ready and they are going to contribute at some point this season. Now, for my fourth point, I want to talk about set pieces and the fact that they are no fluke whatsoever. Yes, we see the Gabriel goal at Tottenham, we see the Gabriel goal against Man City, and generally it's been a problem for teams. It's the reason we got the winner against Leicester. But apart from just seeing the goals go into the back of the net, the data's backing it up too. Arsenal being good at set pieces is absolutely no fluke. It's not something that just last season we did well and it's going to be figured out at some point. This has been a gradual progression. Arsenal have been very, very good from this area of the pitch for a long, long time. Let me show you this from the analyst, powered by Opta, where you can see that only Tottenham with 2 have had more shots than Arsenal when it comes to set pieces. So clearly it's an area of the game they've worked on from an attacking perspective, having 35 shots to Arsenal's 33, which is joint with Man City. But I'll go you one better and show you that Arsenal's XG of 3.57 is the most accumulated from set pieces, where they've scored 3 goals as well, showing that Arsenal remain really, really dangerous and are getting good shots at goal when they are having these efforts, when they're having these attempts, getting corners. Arsenal fans are getting excited, and the proof is there that the data is showing you Arsenal aren't just sort of getting a bit lucky with 3 set piece goals, Gabriel just doing his thing and getting Arsenal out of jail. This is worked on, this is deliberate, and actually it's sustainable. Let me show you this from the last few seasons, where you can see that in the 2018-19 season, Arsenal ranked 6th for Premier League, for goals from set piece in the Premier League. They ranked 8th in the 1920 season, and then 18th in the 2021 season, which was Arsenal's, or Arteta's, first full season in charge at Arsenal. And I think Andreas Georgesson was the set piece coach at the time. He's now gone to Manchester United. Since Nicolas Jova came in the summer of 2021, Arsenal have jumped to 3rd in terms of the rankings for goals from set piece in the Premier League, 4th the season after in the 22-23 campaign, and 1st last season, and now we're ranking in and around those positions this season too. It's absolutely no fluke. Arsenal are brilliant from set pieces, and Nicolas Jova is brilliant at his job, and we've now got, well, potentially a 4th season of evidence that under Nicolas Jova, Arsenal are very hard to stop from set pieces, which is great to see because they've been big in some of those big away games, and they've been big for helping us claim massive points that we've needed, like the Leicester one, where it was nearly 2 points dropped, but we found a way to get the win we desperately needed and deserved, quite frankly. Now, my 5th and final point is that I believe Havertz can lead Arsenal to the title as a number 9. Now look, I've actually done, or I'm doing, a sort of in-depth video on Kai Havertz around this very point on the Gooniverse. If you want to go check that out, by all means. But the point I really want to stress here is that, what have we not seen from Kai Havertz? The output's fantastic as a striker in 2024. I think it's 13 goals and 8 assists as a striker for Arsenal. So that's 21 goal contributions in 26 games as a striker playing for Arsenal. Very good output. There's someone who has been a leading striker in a title run-in, as in he's led the line when we've needed to get big points. So he scored goals, at Tottenham in the run-in. He put the ball on the plate for Trossard and got the assist away at Old Trafford. Really big performance at the Etihad. I don't care that he didn't complete a pass, which, by the way, has proven untrue. But, he was massive in that game. In and out of possession, he's fantastic. His hold-up play is great. And like I said, the output's there. The mentality to get the ball and say, that's it, I'm dragging us level against Southampton, I'm going to get the big goal. Scoring the opener in the Champions League against PSG, scoring the opener on the opening day against Wolves. When sometimes those first few games can get a little bit nervy. Leading the line away at Villa Park in a win, leading the line away at Tottenham. I don't know. Listen, are there better forwards? Yes, maybe. Maybe Isak, Watkins, for sure Erling Haaland. You can have those conversations. But how easy is it to get someone who's going to do more and better than what Kai Havertz is doing in this team right now? I don't think that feels very gettable in the market, not for less than 100, 120 million. And then are they for sure going to do everything that Arteta wants Kai Havertz to do? I just think I've got to this point where I feel like Kai Havertz is playing at a level which, if he keeps up for the rest of the season, what he's basically done for a whole calendar year, he can guide Arsenal to the title. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is he playing at a level that you believe can win Arsenal the title? I think at this rate, he's going to get 20 Premier League goals. And listen, that's the number people generally talk about. Get 20 plus Premier League goals and you've got a goal scorer on your side. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. Those are 5 things. What else did we learn? What have I missed? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, so you can be kept up to date with everything that's going on in the world of Arsenal throughout this week. Even though there's no football to be played, we'll keep you up with all the latest news. Catch you in a bit.